The Orion Front had been a nightmare for 6 long years. Alien armies from countless worlds had clashed in endless battles. But the arrival of humans from Earth introduced a new, unpredictable factor. Most species in the Alliance had dismissed humanity as fragile, a minor addition to a war that spanned entire star systems. Their small bodies and soft skins suggested weakness. But when the humans arrived on the transport ships, eyes wide with fear and determination, the aliens sensed something different. Captain Threx of the Valorian Legion had seen many soldiers in his time. He had faced countless enemies and trained dozens of species. When he first looked at the humans, he sneered. "They won't last a week on the front," he told his second-in-command. The humans looked delicate and unprepared, their hands gripping weapons they had barely learned to use. Their armor seemed heavy and clumsy on their frames. Yet when the first training drills began, the aliens were forced to reconsider. The humans did not stop. They ran, lifted, carried, and fired, even when their muscles burned and sweat poured down their faces. Every fall was met with immediate recovery. Every failure was met with another attempt. Even when their lungs ached and their hearts raced beyond safety limits, they pressed forward. Threx watched in disbelief. It was unlike anything he had seen. "Why don't they quit?" he asked his lieutenant, voice tight with disbelief. "They fight differently," the lieutenant said quietly. "Not for themselves, but for the others. That is something no species here truly understands." First test came quickly. A small skirmish on the outskirts of Taraxis 9, a dusty, cratered planet on the edge of the Orion Front. The Karen Dominion had sent a scouting party, thinking the humans would be easy prey. But the humans were not alone. They were accompanied by elite alien soldiers and supported by drones. Even so, the aliens expected heavy casualties. Sergeant Cole led the human squad, his calm voice cutting through the chaos. He barked orders with precision, moving his troops across broken terrain, through craters and fire. Every soldier knew their role. They advanced methodically, clearing traps, evading enemy fire, and always moving forward. When one soldier fell, another took their place immediately. When ammunition ran low, they scavenged from fallen enemies. When wounded, they often refused to leave the front lines. The aliens watched in growing amazement as ours stretched into a full day. The humans endured heat, smoke, and physical strain with no complaint. Their bodies trembled, but they refused to collapse. Machines that should have crippled them failed to stop their advance. Alien medics were stunned when soldiers who had been knocked down by debris quickly returned to fight. By the end of the first day, the humans had done what no one expected. They held the ground, keeping the Karen from advancing, despite their smaller numbers and lack of heavy armor. Threx approached Sergeant Cole after the battle, trying to mask his surprise. "Why do they keep going?" he asked, nodding toward the exhausted. Humans tending to the wounded and reorganizing their lines. Cole wiped dust from his face and adjusted his helmet. "They fight for each other," he said simply, "and for home. And because stopping doesn't solve anything?" The aliens did not understand. In their logic, war was measured in victories and defeats, not endurance. But the humans continued, day after day, week after week, always moving forward. They rested briefly, but never long enough to lose momentum. Their bodies were pushed to extremes, yet their minds remained sharp. As the humans settled into their routine on Taraxis 9, the aliens began to notice patterns. Human squads rotated, yes, but every member returned to the front lines, assisting with supplies, supporting the wounded, or providing covering fire. They did not count hours or fatigue. Their focus was on the mission and on each other. Every human soldier, from the youngest recruit to the most experienced veteran, seemed to carry an invisible force that kept them moving beyond limits. One morning, Threx observed something he would never forget. A young human, no older than 19, was caught in a collapsing trench. Dust and debris covered him completely. The aliens assumed he would be dead within moments. But when the dust settled, he emerged, coughing and shaken, and immediately returned to the fight. No hesitation, no fear. Just movement forward. The sight left the alien commander speechless. Even the alien medics began to respect the humans. Machines that monitored vitals were constantly sending alerts, heart rates dangerously high, oxygen levels low, exhaustion at maximum. Yet the humans continued. They ignore the limits of the body, one alien medic muttered. It is as if their will sustains them. The humans themselves did not speak of endurance or courage. They acted without explanation. Sergeant Cole moved among the squads, offering words of encouragement. Keep moving, he said. One step forward, one more shot, one more push. That is how we survive. His voice carried a calm authority that seemed to inspire those around him. Even in the face of danger, meanwhile, Captain Threx tried to understand. He had always believed that no species could endure so much without rest, yet the humans did. And more than that, they adapted. When Karen forces unleashed chemical weapons, humans quickly learned which masks were effective. When enemy drones attacked in waves, humans developed strategies on the fly to disable them or divert them. Their creativity under pressure was as remarkable as their physical stamina. By the third day, the aliens began to whisper about human endurance. They do not stop, one Valorian officer said quietly, even when all reason says they should, even when death surrounds them. They continue. Mira Alvarez, leading a human unit, watched the battlefield with tired eyes. Her soldiers were battered, covered in dust and blood, but they continued moving. Every human carried their own injuries silently, focusing on the mission, on protecting their comrades. Myra felt a quiet pride, seeing the small blue species exceed all expectations. They were not invincible, but their determination made them seem so. During one particularly intense engagement, a group of human soldiers was surrounded by Karen assault drones. The aliens observing expected them to be destroyed instantly, but the humans fought with precision. Using debris for cover and coordinating silently, they managed to disable several drones and escape without losing a single soldier. Even the Quran were confused, unable to comprehend the humans' unpredictable endurance, as the first week drew to a close. Taraxis 9 had transformed into a testament to human resilience. Craters, scorched earth, and ruined vehicles were everywhere, but the humans had held their ground. They had moved through fire, smoke, and despair, refusing to quit. And they had done it together. Captain Threx walked among the exhausted soldiers, still unable to fully comprehend what he had seen. Your species is remarkable, he said, his voice low. I have never seen endurance like this. Cole smiled faintly. We survive because we move forward, he said. We fight because stopping changes nothing. That is all there is to it. The aliens continued to observe. They studied the humans, trying to understand what drove them, but no data could explain it. Machines could not measure spirit. Armor could not shield willpower. Weapons could not replicate determination. The humans had something that no calculation could predict: the refusal to give up. Even in the most impossible situations, by the end of the first part of the campaign, the humans had not only survived, they had inspired awe, respect, and fear. Other species began to understand that endurance itself could be a weapon. The humans had arrived not just as soldiers, but as an example of what it meant to push beyond limits, to endure when all else failed. And as the alien commanders watched the humans resting briefly in the ruins, preparing for the next wave of attacks, Threx muttered quietly to himself, "Perhaps we underestimated the greatest power in the galaxy, the human heart." The humans did not celebrate. They did not boast. They simply prepared. Every soldier knew that this was only the beginning. Battles would continue, enemies would regroup, and the war would rage on. But the humans were ready. They were not invincible. They were not flawless. They were human. And that was enough to change everything. Even the youngest recruits had learned that the battlefield was not conquered by the strongest, the fastest. It was conquered by those who refused to stop, who refused to yield, and who refused to abandon their comrades. Every injury, every scrape, every exhaustion-filled step was a testament to that truth. And as the humans stood, watched by the astonished aliens, It became clear no species had ever endured like this before, for the first time in centuries. The aliens understood that survival did not depend on size, strength, or technology alone. It depended on persistence, unity, and the human spirit. And that spirit would soon be tested like never before. The humans had barely caught their breath after the first skirmish on Taraxis 9. The alien commanders were still in shock, spurring among themselves about the strange, small species that refused to quit. Even the most seasoned soldiers of the Alliance had never witnessed anything like it. And now, the humans were about to face a challenge that would test the limits of endurance, courage, and determination in a way no one could anticipate. The next mission took the humans to Goroth Prime, a fortress planet deep inside enemy-controlled space. Its rocky surface was scarred with craters and burned cities, and the skies were filled with toxic clouds and lightning storms. The Karen Dominion had fortified the planet with drones, war machines, and energy barriers. Previous assaults by elite alien squads had failed completely. The planet was considered impossible to conquer. Colonel Mira Alvarez stood on the observation deck of the Alliance command ship, scanning the planet below. Her team of humans, fully trained now in combat strategies, prepared for descent. "This mission will not be easy," she said quietly. "Many of our soldiers will not survive unless we work together. But humans can endure what others cannot." Captain Threx, the Valorian commander, did not hide his doubt. "They will fail," he said bluntly. "No body can withstand what this planet will throw at them. They are too fragile, too inexperienced." Mira shook her head. "You do not understand," she said softly. "They are not fragile. They are persistent. They do not stop until the mission is complete." The humans boarded their dropships. Each ship hummed with energy as it pierced the atmosphere of Goroth Prime. The wind shook the hull, and the fiery clouds reflected off the polished armor of the soldiers. They had trained for months, endured drills beyond imagination, and now they were ready to face real combat. When the ships landed, the humans disembarked quickly. They moved in tight formation, scanning every direction. The ground shook as Karen drones descended from the clouds. Massive machines, taller than a building, advanced toward them with heavy firepower. Alien allies positioned themselves alongside the humans, expecting that the humans would falter quickly. But the humans did not falter. They advanced steadily, moving through the trenches and craters with precision. Sergeant Cole led the first. Wave, his voice calm, directing soldiers around obstacles, through smoke, and under fire. Every step was measured. Every movement was purposeful. Every human knew their role and executed it flawlessly. Hours passed, and the battle intensified. The Karen unleashed wave after wave of drones. Explosions ripped through the ground, and firestorms burned buildings to ash. Most alien species began to falter under the relentless assault, yet the humans pressed forward, pushing through smoke, fire, and fatigue. Their legs trembled, their lungs burned, and their armor was scorched. They refused to stop. Myra observed a squad trapped in a collapsing building. Alien observers expected immediate casualties, but one human, barely 19 cycles old, pulled another to safety, even while dodging falling debris. He refused medical help, insisting on continuing. His body was weak from exhaustion, yet his determination kept him moving forward. By the end of the first day, the humans had advanced farther than any previous force. Their endurance shocked both allies and enemies. Even the Karen commanders were bewildered. Their sensors showed human vital signs reaching dangerous limits, yet the soldiers remained in combat, moving with relentless determination. On the second day, supplies ran low. Food, water, and ammunition were limited. Many soldiers were injured, some severely. Alien medics advised pulling the wounded back to safety, but the humans refused. "We stay together," Sergeant Cole said. "Every step back endangers others. We move forward. We fight together." Alien commanders could not comprehend it. In their logic, survival meant retreat. But the humans redefined survival. Survival was endurance, persistence, and unity. Retreating was failure. Continuing was hope. By the third day, Gorath Prime's surface had become a nightmarish landscape. Smoke, fire, and debris filled the air. Craters stretched for miles. Machines lay shattered. Soldiers fell exhausted, and alien drones littered the battlefield. Yet the humans kept moving. Each injury, each fall, each exhaustion-filled breath was met with another push forward. They improvised, repaired, and adapted. One of the most memorable events occurred near a ruined fortress. A group of humans was surrounded by towering Karen war machines. Alien observers expected them to be destroyed instantly, but the humans did not panic. They used debris as cover, coordinated silently, and disabled two of the massive machines with makeshift explosives. Even the enemy was stunned. Humans seemed unstoppable, moving not with raw strength but with ingenuity and persistence. Colonel Alvarez moved among her troops, encouraging them quietly. "Remember why you fight," she said. "For each other. For your home. For every step forward. One step at a time. One shot at a time. One victory at a time." By the fourth day, the Karen lines were beginning to falter. Not because their weapons failed, but because they could not anticipate the humans' endurance. Human soldiers did not rest unless necessary, and even then, they helped others, instead of retreating. Their fatigue did not slow them. Their injuries did not stop them. Their courage did not weaken. Sergeant Cole noticed that one veteran, Harris, had collapsed from exhaustion while carrying critical supplies to the front line. Cole lifted him onto his shoulders and continued moving. Car and fire rained around them, but Cole did not hesitate. Both soldiers survived, battered and bloodied, yet still moving forward, still fighting. The alien commanders whispered among themselves. "No species can survive like this," one Valorian officer said. "Their bodies should fail. Their minds should break. Yet they do not. Something is different. Something is beyond logic." By the fifth day, Gorath Prime was almost fully under human control. The Karen had begun retreating, confused and terrified by a species that refused to stop. Human endurance had become a weapon as powerful as any cannon or laser. The Alliance had achieved what many thought impossible. When the battle ended, the humans did not celebrate. They did not cheer. They simply moved among the wounded, checked supplies, and prepared for what would come next. Exhaustion filled their bodies, but their eyes remained bright with determination. Their mission was complete, but their work was never done. Mira Alvarez stood among her soldiers. Looking across the battlefield, thousands of humans had survived the impossible. Injured, tired, and battered, they had endured when others could not. She turned to Captain Threx, who had watched silently, and said, "Do you understand now? This is what humans are capable of. Not strength alone, not technology alone, but endurance, unity, and determination." Threx shook his head. "I still do not understand. It is as if they are built differently, as if their spirit fuels their bodies." Mira smiled faintly. "May never understand it. Humans do not fight like any other species. We endure, persist. And sometimes that is enough to change the course of war." As the sun set over Gorath Prime, casting shadows across the craters and ruined cities, the humans gathered together. Small fires flickered across the battlefield, and the soldiers shared quiet words, rations, and moments of rest. Even in exhaustion, there was life, hope, and camaraderie. The alien observers watched, stunned. Machines could not measure spirit. Weapons could not replicate willpower. Armor could not protect determination. Humans had shown that endurance itself could reshape the battlefield, change strategy, and even instill fear into the enemy. Colonel Alvarez looked at the young soldiers, still sitting together in silence, faces tired, but eyes bright. She realized that this was only the beginning. Battles would continue, challenges would grow, and the war would not end soon. But humans had proven something that no alien army could deny. They would endure. No matter the odds. No matter the pain.
Oh.
No matter the enemy. Sergeant Cole knelt beside a new recruit, offering encouragement.
Oh.
"You have done well," he said. "Every step forward counts. Every act matters. Remember, we survive because we do not quit. That is what makes us human. And so, the humans rested for only a short while, preparing to move again, to fight again, to endure again. Their enemies would never forget them. The alien commanders would never forget them, and the humans themselves would never forget what they were capable of when they refused to stop, when they refused to surrender, and when they moved together toward victory. The legend of human endurance was just beginning. And for the first time in the war, the galaxy realized that there was a species that could fight longer, push farther, and survive longer than anyone had thought possible. The victory at Gorath Prime had reverberated across the Orion front. Word of the humans. Endurance spread faster than any message could travel. Alien commanders whispered in amazement about the small, blue species that refused to stop, even in the face of overwhelming odds. Stories of their determination and courage reached distant worlds, inspiring awe, fear, and respect. The humans had not merely survived. They had redefined what it meant to fight. Colonel Mira Alvarez walked across the new forward base, inspecting her soldiers. Many were still bruised and battered, their uniforms torn, and their bodies exhausted from days of continuous combat. Yet there was no despair, no complaints. Every human moved with a quiet purpose, checking weapons, assisting medics, or helping each other to their feet. It was as if exhaustion was a concept they could ignore, physical limitation that did not apply to them. Captain Threx observed from a nearby command tower. He had seen countless species on countless battlefields, yet nothing compared to this. "I do not understand them," he admitted quietly to his aide. "Their bodies should have failed. Their minds should have broken. But they continue. And somehow, that makes them unstoppable." Mira approached him with a calm expression. "It is not about understanding Threx. Humans do not follow logic alone. They fight with unity, with spirit, with the determination to endure no matter what. That is something no machine, no strategy, no weapon can replicate." The next challenge came sooner than anyone expected. The Kharan Dominion, humiliated by their losses, launched a massive counterattack. Their forces, larger and more advanced than before, descended upon the Alliance's newly secured territories. Entire fleets arrived in orbit, and legions of soldiers poured onto the surface. The humans were called to the front line once more. By the time the humans arrived, alien forces were struggling to maintain their positions. Many species had already been pushed back, exhausted, and demoralized. The humans, however, did not hesitate. They moved into position, forming defensive lines, clearing obstacles, and coordinating attacks with precise timing. Even those who had fought tirelessly days earlier showed no sign of hesitation. Sergeant Cole surveyed the battlefield with practiced eyes. The enemy advanced relentlessly, but he knew his team could endure. "Remember," he told his squad, "one step at a time. Every move counts. We fight together. We survive together." Humans faced wave after wave of Kharan drones. Explosions ripped through the ground, firestorms tore apart the terrain, and enemy machines pushed forward with relentless precision. Most alien soldiers were forced to retreat or risk destruction. Humans, however, adapted. They improvised defenses from rubble, used terrain to their advantage, and coordinated counterattacks that surprised even the Kharan commanders. By the third day of battle, the humans' endurance had become legendary. Alien observers could not understand how a species could continue for days with minimal rest. Their vital signs reached extreme levels, yet their movements remained coordinated, precise, and purposeful. Machines designed to predict or counter human action failed. Every attempt to break their line was met with human ingenuity, adaptation, and relentless persistence. One remarkable event occurred when a squad of humans found themselves isolated on a narrow ridge, surrounded by enemy machines. The aliens watching expected them to fall. Yet the humans did not panic. Using debris and terrain as cover, they disabled several enemy machines with improvised explosives and coordinated attacks. Even when one soldier was injured severely, another immediately replaced him, moving without hesitation. By the end of the engagement, all humans survived. Having eliminated a significant portion of enemy forces, Colonel Alvarez moved along the front lines, encouraging her soldiers quietly. Every step forward matters. Every action counts. Remember why we fight, and remember who we protect. Keep moving. Keep surviving. Together. Even alien medics began to marvel. Machines that measured physical strain constantly alerted extreme exhaustion, yet the humans refused to rest beyond brief moments. They treated injuries quickly and returned to the fight, refusing to abandon a single comrade. Their endurance was not only physical, but mental. Pain, fear, and fatigue were met with resolve, not surrender. The 5th day of battle brought the climax. The Karen launched their heaviest assault, using massive war machines and elite soldiers to try and break the human lines. The humans, outnumbered and outgunned, held their ground. Their strategy was simple, yet effective. Endure, adapt, and counterattack with precision. They fought not for glory or recognition, but for survival and for each other. Every soldier knew that giving up was not an option, and that unity could overcome any force. Sergeant Cole noticed one of his younger recruits, struggling to carry a heavy weapon across shattered terrain. He ran forward, helping lift it, and together they moved into position. The alien observers watched in disbelief. Machines could not replicate such cooperation. Weapons could not account for such persistence. Every human act seemed fueled by a determination that transcended physical limits. By the 6th day, the Karen began to falter. Their machines were destroyed or disabled. Their soldiers were exhausted and demoralized. They could not predict human endurance or the unity that drove it. Retreat was their only option. The humans did not celebrate immediately. They had survived, but they knew the war was far from over. Still, they had proven what no species had ever shown. The human spirit was unbreakable. Colonel Alvarez walked across the battlefield after the enemy retreat. Her soldiers were still active, tending to the wounded, reorganizing, and preparing defenses. Their bodies were battered, their faces smeared with soot and blood, yet their eyes burned with life. She approached Sergeant Cole, who was helping a medic transport injured soldiers. They did not stop, she said quietly, even when everything said they should. They moved forward, always forward. Cole nodded. Humans do not stop because they are strong. We stop only when we are done. That is what keeps us alive. That is what keeps us fighting. The aliens had never witnessed anything like it. For the first time, they realized that a species could win, not because of technology or weapons, but because of endurance, cooperation, and spirit. Humans had changed the battlefield, and in doing so, they had changed the understanding of war itself as the sun set over Gorath Prime. Casting long shadows across the craters and ruins, the humans gathered around small fires. They shared rations, tended to the wounded, and quietly prepared for what would come next. Even in exhaustion, they were alert. Even in battle, they were ready. Their enemies would remember them. The Alliance would remember them. And the humans themselves would remember what they were capable of when they refused to give up. Weeks later, the Alliance convened a council to discuss strategy for the next wave of battles. Captain Threx addressed the group, his voice carrying both respect and awe. We have underestimated humans for too long. Their endurance, their spirit, their unity, it is unlike anything in the galaxy. We must rethink our approach. Humans are not just soldiers. They are a force that cannot be predicted or stopped. Colonel Alvarez added, humans do not fight for orders alone. They fight for each other, for hope, and for the promise of survival. That is why they endure. That is why they win. Across the galaxy, stories of human bravery began to spread. Alien species began to study them, trying to understand what allowed them to move beyond exhaustion, beyond fear, beyond what any being should survive. Scientists observed their physiology, noting their ability to recover from fatigue, to adapt under pressure, and to maintain focus under extreme conditions. Yet no science could fully explain the determination, the spirit, and the unity that drove them. Months passed. The humans fought again and again, each battle reinforcing what had become clear to the galaxy. Humans did not stop when tired. They did not surrender when outnumbered. and they did not retreat when faced with overwhelming odds. Their endurance became a legend. The Karen learned to fear them, not because humans were physically stronger, but because humans would never yield years later. Captain Threx watched a new generation of recruits training under human instructors. The alien officers whispered among themselves, "They are teaching more than combat. They are teaching persistence, courage, and unity. This changes everything." Mira Alvarez smiled as she watched young humans push themselves to exhaustion and then continue. "Humans do not quit," she said quietly. "They never have, and they never will. That is their greatest weapon." Even the Karen, once ruthless and confident, had learned a new respect for the species they had dismissed. Their scouts reported that humans could fight longer than any machine, survive conditions that would kill others, and continue advancing even when logic said to retreat. No other species could match their endurance. In the ruins of 1,000 battlefields, humans left a lasting mark. Statues and memorials would later appear not to glorify war, but to honor endurance, courage, and unity. Alien cadets were taught the phrase humans carried in their hearts: "You do not stop when you are tired. You stop when you are done." Colonel Alvarez and Captain Threx stood together on the deck of a command ship orbiting a recently liberated planet. "Do you understand?"